you want to do a show?
No, it should be fine. It's still a lot quieter than it used to be.
Are we on? Good to get started.
Yeah.
Cool. Welcome to today's Savage LiveDraw. I'm Will, and joined across the desk by Georgie.
Hey guys.
Georgie's going to be in the comments answering questions, just being generally cool.
Just trying to find the thing. It's not popping up on YouTube.
Yeah. Just make sure we're all set before we try and get underway.
Let me... streaming. Okay, looks like we are there.
We are good. Awesome. We're just going to jump straight in and make a start. Set up a drawing guide. Usually we go into these things with a bit of a theme in mind, but today I think I got asked what I'd like to do for this stream, and I said I just want to draw a picture, so I didn't get any resistance, so that's what we're doing. So just roughly setting up a perspective drawing guide. Going to get my active layer, set it to drawing assist, and just means our lines will snap nicely to the grid so that we can quickly throw in some kind of a scene. Might be too much of an angle. Try and get this right before we get too far ahead of ourselves, otherwise it'll be a bit of a mess. Alright, yeah, so there's no real theme today, unfortunately. I'll just try to keep it fairly open source. I have been thinking about what exactly it is I was going to try and draw today, and ended up settling on some monsters, some octopus monsters. It's the most G-rated thing that I could think of in that amount of time. Don't always draw sort of dark themed things, but it does, I mean, it's not my comfort zone, I don't think, my safe place, but it does tend to veer off in that direction a lot of the time. It's okay.
Nax says, hey, Will.
Hey. What's going on? Yes, just depending on how we go, like I always go into these things with like grand ideas, and then the reality of the situation is that compromises need to be made. So I don't depending on how we go for time, I might end up cropping this in a bit so that we can get closer to a finished work in time. But the idea is to have this sort of two characters in a scene doing something. Octopus monsters.
Octopus monster.
Yep.
Fantastic.
I'll
And for anyone wondering, guys, if you're not in the comments right now and you can't see this, we're using OBS to stream to YouTube from our iPad.
yeah, and it's pretty good. It's awesome. Options for days, but as simple as you want it to be. Should have been using it the whole time.
Yeah. And for oh gosh, this username, Mr. Snopologamous. Snopologamous. OBS is open broadcasting service, so that just, if you Google OBS streaming or whatever, you'll be able to download it online. It's free to download, works on both Mac and PC. You'll be able to set it up with your iPad and stream through that. Seems to be really stable. We really like it.
You don't want to jinx ourselves just yet, but it seems to be working perfectly. Got the sniffs today, I apologise. It's very fresh in Hobart at the moment. Nice sort of crisp mornings.
It's definitely a shock to come back to. If any of you guys follow us on other social media as well, you know that Nate and I were in Croatia for the past week at IFCC, and the weather was really nice and warm, and I've come back to, what, like 4 degrees?
Home sweet home.
So
How was the trip?
Really good. If any of you are considering going to IFCC in future years in Croatia, totally worthwhile. We met a heap of really cool people, learnt a lot of stuff, and of course, you know, the location doesn't hurt either on the Dalmatian coast there. But yeah, just met some awesome people and got to connect with so many cool artists, learnt so many things watching the lectures and workshops. We did a really nice plein air walk as well, which pretty much all of the attendees turned up to, which was a bit of a shock. We were expecting like 20 people, but everyone turned up, sat on the lawns outside the castle and drew together, which was really special.
Nice.
So we 100% recommend that event to anyone considering it next time.
They got a lot of good footy.
What?
Footage.
Did you say footy?
Footy, yeah.
I was thinking about AFL being played on the lawns there.
Yep.
Yeah, lots of good footage. Really awesome. Nate got some fantastic photos of the plein air walk and just general scenery, some of the lectures and stuff as well, which was really cool.
Nice.
We'll be posting those at some stage in the future.
So, the general idea of this, I'll try and explain it without sounding out of my brain, but I was kind of thinking about just how cool an octopus really is, just from a design perspective.
They're really weird though.
They're
aren't
so
they?
cool.
You've
Like,
seen those videos of them on YouTube where they like slip through tiny cracks
Yeah,
on boats?
yeah.
Like they're made of jelly.
these ones
Mental.
aren't slipping through; they're just opening doors. But it's yeah, I got watching some YouTube videos and like the way they swim, like
Yeah.
sort of jet propulsion, or they do the jellyfish sort of expand and retract kind of thing. They're oddly elegant and like completely alien. I like it. So yeah, I was thinking about that, and then got to thinking about these kind of, what is the word, ethereal nightmare creatures that sort of slink into your bedroom and plant nightmares in your
God.
heads and stuff. You know, nothing too traumatic. And then
Nothing too creepy.
I thought, well, you know, maybe octopus monsters dream nightmare monsters are just people too, and they just want to be happy like everyone else. So
They just want love.
yeah. So as a kind of a date, one of these nightmare monsters found a really pleasant, I don't know what you'd call it, nightmare victim, and invited their friend over as like a, hey, look what I found for you kind of gift thing. So that's where I'm trying so hard to keep this G-rated, because I know that in today's world it's not uncommon for like 3-year-olds to be browsing YouTube and stuff.
Oh no.
But yeah, little insight into my inner workings there. I've been just looking at octopuses for a couple of days now, and it's très cool. I like it.
Is that generally how you find your inspiration, Will? Just searching videos and stuff on YouTube?
Kind of, yeah, sometimes. I don't like to bookend myself too much, but it's it's a good resource.
I'm sure lots of people here have gone down the YouTube hole.
Oh man, and
like early hours of the morning.
Yeah, you start off looking at, I don't know, like people playing darts, and then 10 minutes later you're watching war footage, and then
you're
watching octopus videos. Yeah. Good times. So I guess technically I can run you through what's going on here and what sort of the idea moving forward is going to be. Just using the acrylic brush, which is kind of my go-to sketchy tool for now. Pardon me. Usually I'd probably start with a middle grey and sort of go from there. Don't typically, like, this is a bit out of my comfort zone, usual process of things, but it's I think it might read a bit better for this early line work on the stream. So there's that. At some point, once I'm kind of happy with the shape of things, I'm sort of getting there now, I do a second pass of these lines, tidy things up, and actually add some details, like a face perhaps is a good start. Not mega happy with the shape of this, but I'm kind of, like I said about well-laid plans, you kind of go in thinking everything's going to be cool, and then all of a sudden you realise people are watching, and dear God, I can't draw anymore. That's all good. It's kind of why I think I get so excited by doing these live streams, because it's such a different headspace. It forces it on you. I'm a bit introverted as a person at the best of times, but I would still completely recommend, if you're an artist doing some live streams, it's definitely a different, it forces a different headspace.
Kind of forces you as well, I think, to just kind of accept that nothing's ever perfect.
Yeah, totally.
Go with whatever happens, really.
It's a wonderful way to put it.
A lot of the time people get really hung up on trying to make things perfect and beat themselves up when they can't nail it that first time. But I think watching these live streams, and from anyone doing live streams, not just us, it's a really cool way to see some insight into, not every artist can just nail things at the first pass.
Yeah, and I have a better appreciation for the ones that can. I mean,
man, yeah.
I think Nate was telling me that over at the event, IFCC, Nico was banging out fully rendered character sketches in like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, Nico, Nikolai Lokachin, for those of you who don't know, he's a good friend of ours. He was at IFCC with us, and we were just watching a lecture, and you turn around 20 minutes later and Nico's got this full character done.
Like that's
just mental.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. Also,
that dude has got skills.
Oh, he does. Just so crazy. But also Peter Hahn. For you guys who don't know Peter, you should definitely look up his stuff. He does a lot of, he uses Procreate, but does a lot of traditional stuff as well. And he'd be sitting down at lunch, and he'd just be like sketching out these fully detailed statues and stuff from around him in the environment, and no prior sketching, nothing. And it just looked perfect when he was done. Just insane. But obviously that comes with years and years and years of practice. Everyone, please don't think that you're bad just because you can't do that in your first year.
I'm still trying to tell myself, yeah. Yeah, practice is good. Practice is key.
Draw every day, everyone. Someone else here who goes down the YouTube rabbit hole and gets inspired to draw.
Lovely.
Very good.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Like, I don't want to sound like an ancient human being kind of thing, but I remember when it wasn't even a thing. It's so nice to have resources like that these days.
Mm.
Kind of take it for granted now, but it's not always been there. But you always find something. You know, if we didn't have YouTube, we'd be
It'd be something else
Something
somewhere.
else. right. Now this is kind of that critical moment where I've got a decent shape, and if I get too much thinking about it, it ends up looking, you know, like this. So I got to try and just chill out here and remember my training. Don't really want sort of a neutral expression on this either, because they're sort of horrible nightmare creatures. Maybe a happy face is kind of like an ugly, distorted thing. Like, actually had this little character design years ago that was this little pet, kind of beaked, marsupial-looking thing that was actually sentient, but acted very much like an animal. And it just communicated with these very angry hisses, but it was a very affectionate sort of, it was an odd kind of affectionate, angry hiss of acknowledgement of things, and it would only ever hiss at you if it really, that's kind of its way of just saying everything, kind of like I am Groot. It would just hiss at you. Not digging that. Alright, focus. Maybe some just got flip canvas horizontal set to quick menu slot. Just it's one of those things part of my typical workflow, I guess, is just adjusting the perspective of how I see the artwork so that I can get fresh eyes on it if I start to feel like I'm losing my way, especially working in close like this, which probably not recommended either, but just rushing in details. Yeah. An octopus eyes are like these kind of dual pupil things. Maybe angrier.
Angrier.
Or happier, I guess. She looks really pleased. Or it. Yeah, so carrying on with the process. Once I get some lines down, I might go ahead and try and add some tonal values. Pretty loose. I don't think I'm going to adjust the blend mode of the lines or anything. I'm just going to pretty loosely paint over the top of it. That's kind of the cool thing with the acrylic brush, is you can really paint over the top and still keep those construction lines pretty well. And I love construction lines. Really dig the texture of it, you know, just having layers and layers of mess. Yeah, it's pleasant. You get some interesting accidental shapes and things as well that you can sort of draw out from. little messy bits that kind of become other things that you didn't realise were going to be there in the first place. Sort of like, I don't know, like have you ever looked at a bush and the leaves of it and sort of seen faces and forms, or looking at clouds and seeing animals and stuff? They're kind of drawing out things that aren't actually going on. And you point it out to somebody and they go, no, I can't see what you're talking about. I think you're losing your mind. They saw it. Now I know octopi, have these kind of valve things on the side of their head, but instead of having big flappy valves, I'm going to have
A little bit like Shrek.
yeah, a little, well, perfect example actually. Shrek's got octopus ears, or what is it? Just like their breathing things, or the way they, I don't even know what it is. I know what it looks like. It doesn't look much like this, but that's okay. There's some sort of like a fleshy bit around a sort of a heart valve kind of setup. Not necessarily a heart valve, just a valve. Yeah, that's cool. Don't want to go too heavy duty with it because I kind of want to keep that balance of the face, even though I'm not totally digging in the face. And once I get some tonal values down, sort of do maybe a second pass, refine the highlights and stuff like that, and then throw in a bit of colour. But yeah, once we get to sort of adding tonal value, we'll see how we're going for time. I might have to crop this in a bit to get a finished work out, but hopefully, see how we go.
Are you still using the acrylic brush?
Yeah, so it's pretty good multi sort of purpose thing.
And you're using it for the eraser as well?
Yeah, just to kind of get a consistency with the lines. I don't want to go bananas with mixing up textures and stuff. Totally cool to do such a thing, especially when you're working messy. Why has he got a nose and she doesn't have a nose? Yeah, no, I'm not just making this up as I go at all. Okay, gotta pay attention. Cool.
So for those wondering, Will is using the acrylic brush, which is a default Procreate brush, and you can find it in the artistic section of your brush packs.
And it's awesome. I suppose everybody just play around with the brushes, especially the default ones, or actually any brush, just make brushes, play with brushes. But I think it's great that everyone's got kind of their own thing. It's nice to see how something's working and to maybe get an idea for what you might like, but just have a play and find something that you like. I used to be a big fan of just the sketching brushes, but these 6B HP pencils. But yeah, I don't know, it's nice to mix it up every once in a while. And of course, speaking of Nico before, he is also a master of making brushes.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think if you just Google Nico brushes, you'll find some. He's very generous with his brushes too. I think he gives them away.
They're part of his tutorial packs on Gumroad, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so if you search for like Nikolai Lokertson Procreate brushes or Nico Procreate brushes, they'll come up on Gumroad, and he actually sells them as part of his tutorial packs. So he'll do tutorials for images which come with like the high-res finished image and the video on how to get to that point and the brush pack that he uses for it as well. So it's really good. Not that expensive either. So if you're
And
looking
yeah,
for
he does
something
amazing stuff. Like
yeah,
I mean, Nico Rull
yeah,
is just, oh man, such a perfect thing has been created, and it's good. It's one of those multi-tool brushes that is good for so many different styles and uses as well.
Yeah. It's used a lot for laying down the basics for concept art and things, I've noticed.
So what I did just there was I took the lines that I was working over the top of and moved them, and because it's on a separate layer to the construction lines underneath, it's sort of thrown that out of whack. So I don't have that so much to fall back on now, but I do have it as some additional texture that I might be able to draw detail out of later that wasn't expected to be in that position. So that's another, not being too perfect about things can be super nice. Not to freak out every time something doesn't quite go to plan. What I want to do is get her sort of claw hand kind of, it's a bit odd. I just realised she's got like no bones in her appendage, but
Octopuses though, right?
yeah, but she's got like fingery hands, so it's kind of, she's got to have bones in the ends of them, but I don't know if there's an example of that in nature that I can really think of, that like an invertebrate that's got,
I'm sure there would be.
yeah,
some,
there'd have to be,
nature
like,
is weird.
there's some crazy stuff out there. Maybe I'm just lost because I'm looking at like humanoid hands. I'm sure there are things out there with like bony hand type things that are on the end of tentacles, surely. Not just in my head. Yeah. Maybe make this a bit more of a kind of a pout thing. I'm not going to redraw it, I'm just going to push these lines a bit. Like a real, not duck face, but it's a pretty duck face. Okay, I'm just going to re-sketch that. Hang on, so they've got this sort of mouth, which is kind of like that. Perfection. Okay. He's looking a bit weird now, so I might get his claw hand there, holding hers. Might not even need the fingers on the other side so much. All of that. I think I need his fingers coming through the other side of her hand, but it's I think it might disrupt the readability of his expression. It's not terrible. Anyway, moving right along. Okay. Just had a thought, maybe I'll do like a, I kind of promised myself I wasn't going to improvise too much today, and I'm already breaking that rule, my one rule.
Nah, that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah, so I wanted to do like a glamour pose, but now I might do like a who me sort of hand. Oh, you shouldn't have kind of. Yeah, that could work. Maybe a bit bigger. Fabulous. Okay. It's a pretty simple, straight-on sort of shot, which I'm not a massive fan of, but I might, if I can just move her into a position where it makes a bit more sense perspectively. Keep the eye line sort of the same. her head lines do need to go though, because I don't think there's any room for that on a wall. Cool. And I do want to get this sort of up in your face tentacle somewhere more useful. Kind of like that. Okay. And I was going to have this tentacle here, sort of behind him, but I might do like a just rolling around in front of him sort of thing. Tentacles flying everywhere. What's going on? It's like, no, look at it. very consciously aware of the words coming out of my mouth right now. I just put on some, here we go, improvising again, put on some random little shapes just to break up a line of his back. And if they look too static, I guess, then it might look deliberate, so I don't know, let's just make it messy. I suppose when you're drawing monsters, the sort of a degree of familiarity, but alienness. That's why I think the xenomorph is kind of like the most incredible monster design. It's just this sort of familiar thing and like elements of its birth cycle, and sort of makes sense, but they're violent and odd, and yeah, it's just sort of human, but it's not, and it kind of breaks up the silhouette in interesting ways. It's amazing. Very cool stuff. And it has things on its back like this. Maybe I can... I don't want to get too caught up with the details, just general shapes, I think. How are we going for time?
10:35 currently.
Okay, so if I can kind of wrap this up, the line work at least, soon I'll be happy. I think because she's sort of standing upright, it's not quite. Just want to get her to moving in through the door, sort of. Kind of like that. Okay, so yeah, so she's sort of coming in through the door. Pardon me. Oh, I should have got some tissues, man.
Do you want me to go and grab some?
No, it's all cool. I'll just keep sniffing at everyone. I'm sorry, everyone. Might just quickly quick shape. I'll just set the quick shape a little faster. And kind of want this door to be open. Cool. Get a bit of a door frame in, and then I think we're mostly there. really think about it, she's got this sort of collar thing going on, this slimy collar thing, but it's, I don't know, sort of reminiscent of like those fur collars you get on fancy coats.
Yeah, it's like an old-timey fur coat collar.
She's so glamorous. Don't really want to get too much eyebrow action. Just sort of keep it like flashy, sort of less definition along that bridge. Maybe get a cool. He's looking pleased. That's his other hand. Just had an idea, might get some sort of sharp underside to her tentacles. What's a tentacle without a 6-inch blade tooth thing scattered all up there?
We weren't going too dark.
No, we're not. There's no. Yeah, we'll try and maintain. There's. I think as long as we're not severing limbs and stuff, and we're good. Just. I think. Like I'm sure he thinks her spiky tendril things are very charming. Perfectly G-rated. Maybe mix up. You know, you kind of get this natural inclination to along to the end of something you get finer and finer, so like the teeth might be really big like halfway or at the start of it, but I think just sort of mixing up those ideas, so you have like a patch for no good reason at all that has very short little teeth like that, kind of get a little bit of breaking that, you know, that stuff that people don't usually tend to think about but everyone thinks about. Those laws of how things are supposed to work. Just mix that up a bit. So there we go. Maybe just one random massive one. While we're doing sharp bits, I'll put some on this. And I'm trying to think of, don't really want to put them on. I think as long as I keep these blade tooth bits away from where the character of her is and keep them on her extremities, then it's less shocking. Like if she had teeth coming out of her face, it might look a bit wrong, but I think if it's away from where her character is, then it's less horrific. That's what I tell myself. It helps me sleep at night. So just keep the teeth away from your character.
Keep them on the end and it's fine.
Keep them on your extremities and you'll be okay. Pardon me, I think I'm a bit lost with what that is exactly, but I'll... Oh no, that's another tentacle, of course. So we'll just put that there.
Tentacles everywhere.
They are flying everywhere. This is tentacle party. The other sort of tentacle party. that's all cool. This was going to be a tentacle sort of coming around the corner, and maybe have some of that random teeth. It's kind of pressed, so maybe more pushed out of shape. And maybe just a little bit of, because it's cool to have tentacles everywhere, but I think just these very uniform lines, I could probably mix it up a little bit more and get just to break up that uniformity. Yeah, I'm going to do it here now. Sure. All right. Maybe make these lines go somewhere.
Christine says it's unfolding so well.
Thank you, Christine. Yeah, it's I've had a little bit of a, I don't know what you call it, leading up to these live streams. I like to, I tried over planning them back in the day, and it actually, I think if I allow myself a little bit of freedom, that's why just drawing without a theme is actually super chill, but that can't always be the case. Yeah, if I have a set thing, or like a, I guess not even a script, but things that I want to cover, and I don't allow myself the sort of freedom to make things up a little bit, then I don't think I'm as productive sharing ideas and things with you guys. So I think it's going well because I'm just making it up half. But yeah, I can follow the rules. I totally can. Right, Georgie?
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. I'm not like the savage cowboy or anything. That's Tom.
Savage cowboy.
Yeah. Okay. Windows. Just going to quickly bang in some windows. Might do that on a separate layer, just so I can throw lines through what I've done and then just quickly erase the bits that shouldn't be there. Yeah, I got quick line set to about 20 hundredths of a second, so it's nice and snappy. You could set it faster, but I think I personally tend to get some accidental hits when I've set it too fast. Not that you don't realise you do that kind of thing, but sometimes you rest the pencil on canvas for maybe a little bit too long just because you're human. And then you get these accidental hits with things, which is why it's nice to be able to adjust such things. But yeah, don't be mad at Procreate just because it's trying so hard to help you.
It's trying its best.
Yep.
Living its best life.
So there, and then I think once I get that, I can just boost the eraser, get rid of these bits. Don't need to be too precious if I over erase, because I think this is one of those more suggested background elements, especially once I put some tone onto it. Kind of not happy that tentacle's finished. More of like a blah. And that would be in front of him, behind him. I might make this one follow that window a bit. And make him kind of make him go like that. That'll do, donkey. I don't want to sound like I'm over it before I've even finished the picture, but it's like I'll be so happy to be done with the octopuses.
You've got the octopuses out of your system.
Yeah, it's done now. It's
find something else on YouTube to inspire.
Anything else? I say that now. Probably end up going home and watching octopus videos. Okay, I'm just going to quickly make this look hopefully less cartoony.
So second Christine on here has jumped into the comments asking how can she have more pencils. Christine, you can download pencils for Procreate online. A quick Google search for Procreate brushes will bring up a heap, or you can head to the resources board at procreate.art/discussions, and there will be heaps of brushes there from our community, and some will be free, some will be paid for. Alternatively, you can try making your own, which is exciting and a really big challenge, I guess, in some circumstances. There are a couple of tutorials on our Instagram account on how to make basic brushes if you want to start there. Otherwise, YouTube will have heaps of tutorials on that as well.
And it is fun. I mean, once you start down that rabbit hole, it does kind of become a bit of a thing.
Right.
Yeah, you have one successful, oh, that's exactly the kind of brush I wanted to set out to make, and then yeah, it's just a case of doing it. Like I don't have a lot of need for custom brushes because I'm kind of spoiled for choice most of the time, and the sort of work that I do doesn't really call for it, but it is part of my job to understand the process well enough. And it's like anything, you just do it a little bit and then you go, okay, now I understand what that tool set does. Got to give yourself the time to do it, but it is a bit of an awesome little rabbit hole, and you know, things are always improving. So any suggestions anyone has for features to add to things like that? Why do people go for that sort of stuff?
Procreate.art/discussions again, but go to the ideas and suggestions board. You can leave suggestions for features that you like to see in Procreate, things that you think could be done better in Procreate as well. That's where we look for feedback. If there's something in there that's super popular, generally, if it's possible, in Procreate, that's where our engineers will look to build their next features. So they'll go there. We do take on board a lot of feedback from the community. So if you have something you'd like to see, head there.
Thanks, Georgie. Okay. Oh, there's a door. Always something. Who left the door open? Were you born in a tent? What's the other one?
Born in a tent.
Yeah.
How do you practice, Will? Is a
How?
question from
Uh,
color and everything.
yeah, just I do like to study reference, but I don't like to work from reference. So I don't know how much that applies to anyone's goals and ambitions, but it's kind of when I'm making stuff up, I like to work as much from how I feel things should be, from I guess a perspective that's educated by studying reference.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing things in front of me to inhibit my desire to make things a certain way. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, it does.
yeah. So I like to study from reference, but I like to work sort of freehand, and that works for me. I'm not sure if that would work for, I don't know, like a matte painter or a, I'm not sure. I haven't really worked in other fields before, just illustration. Yeah.
Yeah, different workflows for different people. Is that always how you've worked, or did you start with references when you were beginning?
Yeah, I think so. It was only because I can remember having sketches of things that, like when I was very young, there was a soft toy that made the rounds around the house. I can't remember whose it was. It was like a little dog-looking thing with a bean belly, but way back in the day. So I think it was like corn in its tummy or something. But yeah, I remember drawing that as a kid, and it was sort of like just a household toy, little green belly and ears and stuff. I remember drawing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the movie.
Oh yeah.
Out of some teenage magazine, which, yeah.
The old school movie, not the new one.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
look
Oh, yeah.
Really creepy.
Yeah, not the creepy one. I think these octopi, look less creepy. I'm sure I've made a mess of that door, but I'm not too worried. Let's go. I'm just going to crunch all of this line work down. I'm going to go in, make the background color sort of a middleish grey, maybe lighter, maybe about there, and then add some darks. Just while I've got this, I did kind of lose the end of that tentacle. There you go. Oh, that's why. And his arms look a bit too bony.
DPI are you working on, Will? And canvas size, I guess.
The canvas size is 2 times screen resolution. I'm not sure, actually I can tell you right now, if we go canvas information, so the pixel dimension, 2 times the native resolution of this screen, 5464, gives us 19 layers to work with. I don't think I'm going to use all 19 today, but it's kind of a middle. I mean, I think if you're using more than 20 layers, it's either a huge project or you're out of control. So I think that sort of pixel count, twice screen resolution, gives you a good amount of detail and a sensible amount of layers to work with. And the DPI, I'm not sure. I might have just set it to something.
Looks about 150-ish from the canvas thing.
150, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I was thinking too much when I did that. Yeah, just worrying about the pixels.
Noting though, guys, that if you're using a pixel canvas, DPI doesn't actually matter. DPI is for printing purposes only, so if you are going to print your work, for sure, use DPI, because that information is going to go directly to the printer. But if you're just doing digital art and you're not going to print it, it doesn't matter what DPI you set it to.
Don't stress. Stress less. Yeah. What's it doing? Curtains. Really quick, just messy curtains. Don't need the curtains because I think we've got heaps going on here and we're not going to get done in time. But it would make me happy to have at least the illusion of some sort of extra curtain. Okay. I'm just going to pause momentarily and have a little bit of water because I need it.
Water and some lollies. If you guys want to see where we are in the sound booth, you can go and check out our Instagram account at the moment, @Procreate. We just posted a photo in our stories of the setup that Will has in the sound booth today, including his bowl of lollies that he's got next to
I'd totally
the
forgotten.
screen.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You just said one layer. Were you always on one layer, or were you just squash them? Sorry, I was just taking a drink of water, guys.
That was a perfect time. I got to a point where I was pretty satisfied with how that was all looking and just squashed it all down. I think we had about 3 layers there at the start. We had the very rough, sketchy stuff and then a couple of layers over the top. I think I may have split her and him into 2 separate layers just so I could move them around independently, but I don't think I ended up having to. But yeah, at the moment we've got 2. I'm just about to squash those together. Make a new layer. Grab our exact same brush, make it a bit bigger, and I guess I'll try and just get the lighting pretty standard, sort of falling in from above. I'm just trying to think of what would make her look good, sort of trying to think ahead. He is very side-on. I'm not happy about it, but that's okay. So it doesn't really matter too much what he's looking like. Any sort of lighting on him is going to make him look better than he does. But her, she's sort of central to this, so I want to make sure before I throw lighting onto it what it's going to look like. So I guess the best way to do that, other than think about it a little bit, is just make a new layer, have a bit of a play. I think problem trying to do that during a stream is time constraints. I would quite happily spend hours playing with an idea to get it right. We just can't do that today, so that's cool. And that's the fun stuff too. I really dig that. Just taking the time to explore composition, ideas, lighting, that sort of thing, and seeing what works. And hopefully having done that more than once in my life, I can just one-shot this and it'll look okay. Confidence. Gotta have confidence.
Jackie Robinson says, "Good morning, Will."
Hey, that's my sister. What's going on? Thanks for tuning in, Jack. What are you doing? Another artist in the family.
Ah.
Yes, yes. In fact, quite a few. One's got like a creative head on their shoulders, I think. Different ways of expressing it.
Chocolate milk. I don't know if I'm saying that properly either. Chocolate milk. Asking if there's a recommended DPI for making stickers. Now, we at Procreate are not experts on printing, so we would always recommend that you check with your printer as to what their recommendations are. However, the general rule of thumb with DPI is that the smaller the thing is, the more DPI you should have, because the smaller an artwork is, the closer you're expected to look at it. So having a higher density of DPI is going to give you better color.
Yeah, there's like a middle range there where,
yeah.
Yep, and that's one of those things that really comes from doing it more than once.
Yeah.
You're going to have a couple of failed attempts, so get something that you're happy with, that's at a reasonable DPI, and start testing, start getting things printed, it's such an art form in and of itself, getting things through print, and that's, I very little experience with it as well. I've had a couple of works go to print, and I know what artwork I've provided them and how it turned out, but I didn't have to speak to the printers myself. But it's definitely one of those things that you may want to do more than just once, willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't be disheartened if it doesn't turn out right the first time.
Is willy-nilly like an Australianism?
I feel like it might be.
I'm pretty sure no one understood what I just said when I said willy-nilly.
No, guys, if you understood what Will just said, please let us know. If you didn't, we're so sorry.
That's okay. Google willy-nilly. No, don't. Yeah.
Maybe don't. Maybe don't. But yeah, it's so funny. Australians just kind of come out with their Australianisms all the time in discussion and don't really think about whether or not it's a widely known thing.
Everybody does.
Yeah, everyone does, but I feel like Australians have some really weird
I think because it's vaguely English, but everybody does, and I like the fact that we get picked on for that.
Yeah, it's quite amusing. My favourite one personally is whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah.
Whoop whoop.
So to say that someone lives out whoop whoop, or
what's the American version of this, like Timbuktu or something? Or
yeah, or is that Australian?
I don't know. I don't get out much.
But whoop whoop is just generally like the middle of nowhere. It's yeah, out.
Out whoop whoop. That's
whoop,
exactly what it is. It is what it is.
I've said that a few times to non-Australians, and the looks you get is just like,
what did you call me?
What are you saying right now? Diego, Will has flip canvas set to his quick menu.
I do. So just horizontal, and this is kind of the setup for sketching and stuff like that. I just have the one, so I can just quickly flip up and get a little fresh eyes on it. It's not, if I'm going to be spending 9 or 10 hours working on a very specific finished piece, I might think about what I'd be using and set up the quick menu appropriately for that. But for sketching, it's usually just remove everything from the quick menu and flip the canvas. I'm spending way too much time on this face. Okay, so kind of got the rough idea. I'm gonna get a big brush, just start throwing it down. Okay, try not to sniff. I'm so sorry. It's the worst sound. And yep. Okay, that's an arm tentacle. And
for the people who've just joined us, Will used the acrylic brush for doing all of his sketching and erasing, and you're still using that now?
Yeah. This
Yeah.
is like a real go-to. It's nice because it's sort of you can get a good bit of texture to it. You kind of have to be delicate when you're laying down tone work like this because it overlays on itself, and you don't want to get really crispy, harsh contrasts, which I'm already starting to do. But it's good. It's a great little brush. It's definitely my go-to lately for this quick stuff. Speaking of quick stuff, I'm just going to check the tracked time. 1 hour 12. I don't think we're going to get this coloured today. That's okay. What time do you have to be out of here, Georgie?
Whatever.
That is the right answer.
Yeah.
To be honest, I could do this all day. I'm just concerned that people might not like to sit there for more than an hour and a half watching this kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, I totally could, but
Yeah, I think lots of people drop in, drop out.
Yep.
Come back later.
That's cool. Like that. I love it when you start laying down tones, and like I dig line work, and I really do dig just working straight from values and creating form without the line work, but there's something I really like about line work, and then you start adding that form to it, and it's because it's such a slow motion process drawing something. You kind of get these not bumps in the road, but you know, like a more excited version of that analogy is signposts, where something changes the way you look at it, makes it exciting all of a sudden for the first time in 40 minutes. Yeah, I dig that. And
Oh, they use willy-nilly in the US as well.
yes,
Awesome. Okay, we didn't confuse a whole heap of people then.
thank you, America. That's so good.
Okay, growing up in Canada, willy-nilly was a common phrase for haphazard or flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. This is news to me. I don't get out much. In fact, I definitely don't get out of the country very much. So it's this is great. We're not so hard to understand, Aussies.
Nah.
I think we're
not
just
at all.
misunderstood.
Might be the strong accent that just throws people.
Yeah. G'day, mate. I'm talking quickly. I heard is particular frustration.
Australians talk quickly.
Yeah. Well, just if we don't take our time to enunciate. Yeah.
Things. It's kind of it's true though. It just kind of all blends together, doesn't it?
Yep. That is definitely the same for all people, though. Okay. I think if...
I'm going to leave you here with Will for a second, guys. I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Thanks, Georgie. Still experimenting with patches of tone work. I'm not so sure of how things are going to work. I don't really want to get too dark on the background elements, just because although it might be accurate in certain places, I think it's a pretty stylized piece. I don't think we're trying to be real at this point. So I worry less about the background than me, and just get at least one of these characters looking fairly right. But from the sounds of things, we've got all the time in the world, so I might not end up cropping this and get something good. Wow, something finished. This is a very early first pass of lighting, so I'm not thinking too much about it. There's you know, things like self-shadowing and like this kind of fall away. I won't worry too much about that until I do a second pass, but it's kind of on my mind, but not really. Just getting the form with a general light source. All of the interesting lighting dynamics that go on with form, I can worry about on a quick second pass. George is back.
Hey guys. Juan is asking, do you use colour in your drawings?
Yeah, totally. Sometimes I work from colour, sometimes, most of the time, I work from grayscale and then add colour. I think the only thing that really, what's the word where it's in charge of that idea? Governs, dictates, something, decides, is whether or not I have a specific palette that I need to be working with, specific colours, because I kind of make stuff up as I work quite a lot of the time. I'm not super worried about specific palette if I'm working with colour, as long as I can kind of get the feeling of what I was going for. So that can be a bit more accidental and freehand, but if I am working with a specific colour palette deliberately, then that will be most likely working from colour and maybe lines, but I don't do that much specific stuff. I'm kind of fortunate in that a lot of the work that I do is kind of, people say just do something kind of like this, and then I get to just make it up. It's like the perfect job.
A couple of other people who've just joined us here. Will is using the acrylic brush to do sketching and laying down the values here.
And it's awesome. I like it. What I might do quickly. I'm trying to. I'm ghost drawing just above the thing, trying to figure out where these lines were going. And I got this window all messed up, but it's okay. Yeah, that's fine. And it's doing my head in. Yeah, that's fine. A little bit lower. Whatever, it's cool. Alright, so, oh yeah, maybe a little bit on the door. It's tricky here because I'm already thinking, like, this is such a central thing that I kind of have to be very careful about how I put down tone that converges on that position. I don't want to just draw a big, this is where the action is happening thing, and I just want to kind of work around that, be a little bit subtle with it so that it doesn't offend you, offend the eyes, patronize your sort of sense of, yeah, I get it, he's kissing the hand, I get it. It's very easy to make it look super ugly if you don't think about stuff like that, I think. Some of these lines. Too much detail, overdrawing things. Says the guy who spent an hour and a half doing some line work. All right. These are meant to be curtain hooks. That big black spot there. Maybe a bit of a shadow above the curtain rail. Maybe not so much. What's doing my head in is this stuff.
I have a comment here from Jackie.
Yep.
Chester says, "Wow, Wingo's so good."
Yeah. Wingo is my, I don't know what you call it. The kids started calling me that, and it's sort of stuck. And now the Procreate YouTube art community is aware of it.
Also knows this.
I like it. I like being Wingo. It's cool. It's funny, they came up in the office yesterday, I think.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So maybe Destiny's just like, no, the world should know this.
That's okay. We're all one big family here in the Procreate community.
Wingo's just one cog in that machine. Thanks, Joff. To my nephew there. Okay. Now, what am I doing? I really want to just tweak that a little bit, just to nullify that crazy blacks. These are really harsh. I'll just zoom in and undo what I did. So you get these contrasty blacks where I've gone too harsh with the brush. And if I just knock it back a little bit, I can get most of that back by making the background a little darker. But I don't have those harsh. Yeah, so that's kind of a cleaner version of where we just were. Vaguely enough. That's okay. It's all about the details. Now, I could start throwing on the white. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but when you start adding highlights, like, it's awesome to see form come from line work, and then seeing that form next level with some highlights it's kind of my second favorite bit. So, deep breath, have a lolly, a sweet candy. Actually, that dude's here. Before I get carried away, should be way more of a thing.
Moxie Don, can this be achieved on an 11-inch iPad Pro? Absolutely. Most definitely. The 11-inch iPad Pro is exactly the same as the 12.9-inch in terms of actual hardware. It's just smaller. Everything else, all the specs are the same. But, I mean, honestly, this could also be achieved on other iPads. It's not necessarily just an iPad Pro thing. It's whatever suits you, really.
That would be a very similar experience to what's going on right now. Which is actually a pretty cool thing about Procreate in general. Anything that it's supported on. Experience is very similar. Just in case anyone's curious, I just made a new layer to refine some of these darks because I did adjust the opacity of my previous one. I was drawing away there trying to figure out why nothing was happening, and it's because that tonal value layer I nullified a little bit too clean. It's a bit dark. Maybe not so much. Maybe hers. Oh. Okay, I'm happy. Highlights and stuff. Sort of there. Another thing too, I'd probably spend a bit of time. I like character design, and I didn't spend much time thinking too hard about, like I wanted them to be octopus kind of people. But outside of just blending an octopus with a person, I didn't think too much about it. So I really dig coming up with how they should work. I'm only saying that because I feel this is a little bit plain, and you know, other than having this neck thing and these things popping out of here, there's not much actual design going on. Yes, this is a LiveDraw and I've got to be kind of quick about it, but it's there's no texture or form or anything interesting going on with these arms. It's just something I wanted to mention because I don't know, it sort of vaguely suits the picture, I guess. But that is a cool thing. If you create a character and you refine why that character does certain things, and then start using your character in your more narrative-driven illustration work, that's satisfying. It's a cool thing. It's like, here's this thing that I've been working on for making the look of and the backstory of, and now it's in this scene that I've created. Keep flipping the canvas and I keep losing track of where the light's supposed to be coming from.
Whoops.
So yeah, every time I flip the canvas now I'm going to have to zoom out and double check that before otherwise we're going to end up with two very distinctly mashed together things.
Dual light sources.
Yeah, and that's not going to look pretty. Anyway. I suppose that's a potential downside to flipping the canvas, is you get too much fresh eyes on something. I'm not sure how defined I want these cheekbones to be. There's quite a lot going on this face. But I should really, no, that's okay, doesn't matter. It's beautiful. Right, we've all been waiting for tentacle action. could probably add a bit of implied texture sort of to these. You don't have to draw it all in, I mean, but just adding detail with highlights. So the line work and the darks can be one way, and then you add some sort of element of detail that wasn't even implied in those with the highlights. So I don't know, it gives a bit more of a softer approach when you're working messy. Trying to make sense of how my mind's working on this one. Yeah, just because it's like speckledy and stuff doesn't mean you have to draw it all in there. It's kind of okay. So we'll come back over this and do some more harsh highlights and maybe some secondary light source very quickly. Time has just gotten away from me. I have no idea what sort of time I've been in this room now. At all.
Time has become irrelevant.
So glad the door's open, because I would just be like in a void. Yeah, we're in the sound room. We just built a sound room. This is kind of the first thing we've done with it.
Kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's cool. It's going to be good to have this on site. Very handy.
You wait, guys. Our tutorials are going to go next level.
Next level, big time.
Awesome. Just have and not all of these little things stuck to the wall yet.
No, I positioned some of them with double-sided tape. Some problem areas I have to use the glue.
Nearly pulled that one off the wall. So.
Yeah. That's cool. The more you know. I should have told you. By the way, it's not actually built yet. It's an illusion.
It's impossible not to touch them. They're just so spongy.
Yeah, they're cool.
Sorry, guys. I'm talking about the soundproofing foam on the walls here in the sound booth. Ali Blue Jay here is asking, how did you develop your art style, and when did you feel like you found your space in the art community?
Well, I would honestly be lying if I said that I had comfortably found my space in the art community. I think a lot of artists that I hear kind of say the same thing, that they're sadly never truly satisfied with where they are with it, and they're always trying to push to get better, and that they're their own worst critic. It sounds like some sort of line off a movie, but it's such a thing. Like I give myself a rough time with my work. It's just always wanting to improve, and I think that comes from it's ingrained. Like that's how I view the world, and why would I want to be lazy about how I perceive the world around me? So I'm not sure. I don't know if I've found a comfortable place, and I'm not sure that I want to. As far as developing a style, that's just, I think human beings have a degree of free will, but there is that argument that we're just the product of the experiences going on around us and our biology. And that might explain it well enough, is that the things that I was exposed to, pop culture and movies and comic books and all that kind of stuff mixed with my biology, I guess does well enough to explain how I feel about it. I think we have degrees of free will, but I definitely think that we're a pack animal, human beings. I'm kind of getting off track here, but I have a tendency to do that. I think truly independent creatures might have more free will than we do, but I think biologically, because we're a pack animal, we're kind of programmed to take on and move with each other. So I don't know, maybe and that comes back to the experiences that were in front of me growing up, the things that I liked, the biology of me with my environment. I don't want to say it was an accident, but it was an accident. A deliberate accident. Okay. Oh, there's a Tentacles for days. There's tentacles everywhere. Okay.
Just everywhere
This
you
is
look,
just
can't
crazy.
get away
I
from
can't
them.
escape it. Where's the light? It's here. This one's shooting off in... Oh no, I'm erasing. Oh, that was bugging me. I thought I'd gone insane. The double tap on the pencil, I didn't turn it off. Yeah, that's another one of those examples of setting things up to suit your style.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I personally love the double tap.
Bang.
I
There
use
you
it all the time, but I'm hearing from a lot of people around me that they find it more hindering than
Especially not knowing that you've got it on.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
I mean, I do catch myself out sometimes doing that. I'm like, what? Erase? Oh, okay. I've tapped it there. Because I tend to like twirl my pencil around in between when I'm thinking about what I'm doing. If any of you have a second gen Apple Pencil, you can turn off the double tap
Totally
in
can.
the Apple Pencil settings, in the settings of your iPad. So go to the settings app, find Apple Pencil, and you can turn it off in there if it annoys you.
I'm not going to right now just because now that I know what's going on, I'm not just quietly shocking myself. So I think I can get around it without leaving the page. Plus, this isn't my iPad, so I don't want to go into settings and
Change it around.
yeah,
for
not while we're
everyone.
live. Unforeseen. Okay. Tentacles still. Tentacles, this one. And this one. And this one. How's the tapping coming through? We're using a different mic setup today. I know that's always a bit of a bummer on a live stream. It's getting the Apple Pencil sort of tapping on the screen.
I haven't had anyone comment on it so far.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Seems
draw
to
it
be
to
doing
people's
okay.
attention unnecessarily, but I'm a little bit curious about how having this very external mic over here on the computer. All right. I may have drawn too many sharp things because now I've got to kind of colour them all. Pardon me. Okay, I'll get a bit on that hand just because it doesn't look like much. It's kind of a mess of claws.
Do you ever get sick of painting values and just change to colour randomly in the middle of a drawing?
Sometimes, yep. I was doing a little bit of sketching leading up to this. Totally. Certainly when I'm not in a set process. Yeah, honestly, so much of the work that I do is just me riffing on things, not working to a set. I totally can. Like, I got no problem sitting down with a task and working at it, but this is like 90% of what I draw. It's just random stuff.
I'm terrible at sticking to a thing with my work.
Yep.
I'm like, I'll sketch and then I'll start doing some line work and then I'm like, nah, go
it's just
straight into the colour.
nice.
Go back to the drawing later.
It is fun. Colour's awesome. I do like the sort of structure of tonal stuff, but the freedom of colour is very cool. Okay, might put a bit of value on that so that you know it's a body going at the door. A couple more highlights and then do a quick second pass. Just get some harsher. Oh, wait, I'll save that. Hold up. Okay.
The DJ artist asking if we're going to put live streaming back into Procreate. It's a good question.
Yeah.
We removed it in Procreate 4.3 because iOS now has live broadcasting in the screen record option of your control center. So if you swipe down, if you're using the latest iOS, you swipe down to bring up the control center and hold on screen recording. If you've got any broadcasting options loaded onto your iPad, those should turn up there. When we were using our streaming service through Procreate, we used Mob Crush, and that still works really well through iOS Screen Record. However, for these live streams now, we use OBS, which is open broadcasting software. You can download that for free from the internet, and you just plug your iPad into your computer screen, and you can stream like this. It's super stable and everything.
That on the Mac at least. I'm not sure entirely about the PC setup if that's what you're using, but it's awesome. Like so far, this is the first time I've sat down and really used it. There's a bit of testing done beforehand, but super easy to jump into and use.
Yeah.
Mega happy with it.
It's been really good. And obviously we're using Mac computers through the office here, guys, but Joe in support has used OBS through his PC before to do gaming, and he says it just works.
Nice.
So it's really simple to kind of get set up. Would totally recommend it, but at this point, to answer your question, we don't have any plans right now to put live streaming back into Procreate. Never say never, but for right now, no.
Good question.
Yeah.
Oh,
And to plug the INS board again, if we should do that, if you feel very strongly that you want to see live broadcasting back in Procreate, or if you have any other features that you would like to see in Procreate, please jump onto procreate.ard/discussions and let us know what features you want in the ideas and suggestions board. That's where we go for community feedback.
Oh, it's a harsh one. Okay. Bit up here. Love this acrylic brush. You just get like a nice amount of movement with the stroke, so kind of not crazy, but it's enough to get that stroke direction read. Yeah, not much of a fan of sort of default round brushes and stuff, at least how they used to be. A bit too airbrushy for my liking. I feel guilty now because before we were talking about timing, I was thinking now I've got free reign to just finish the whole piece. I'm like, probably still, like if I rushed it, I could probably get done in 20 minutes maybe, but it wouldn't. I feel guilty. Not too guilty.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Okay, we download OBS on your computer, not on the iPad. So download it, go Google it, and the website will come up. It's free to download. Just download it, install it on your computer. Then you can plug your iPad into the computer itself, and you can bring it up on OBS.
Okay. Might maybe make a new layer. Something like hard light is kind of cool. Gonna have to be careful when you're using it, but it's one of those layers that draws over the top of things, so you don't really lose underlying detail as much unless you're using darker shades and you kind of layer and layer and layer, and it sort of burns it. But it is one of those layers that you can flip-flop back and forth between lights and darks and add and take away, but because of the nature of it, you don't really lose too much underlying detail. Just blows it out a bit. So it's cool. I like it. I'm going to use this one to add these more slimy, harsh highlights. You know that when something's wet and you get that really harsh line. Not so diffuse reflections.
Alien, yes, this live stream will stay on our YouTube channel. It will be saved for later, so you can watch it whenever you want. I hope I got your username right. You've got Ali in caps lock and N in lowercase, so I'm going with Alien rather than Alien.
Alien.
Question for Will.
Yo.
Do you prefer working in limited brushes like this, or do you sometimes have lots of options while you draw?
You kind of use brushes for specific tasks. There isn't a crazy amount of fine detail going on here, so this sort of looser acrylic brush is great. It can go small, but then it doesn't work so well. It doesn't lay down quite so well. If I was going to be doing detail, especially with sketches, these, where are they? 6B, HB. Again, you get a little bit of texture with your stroke. But it's a bit sharper shape, brush shape. So I guess depending on what you're trying to achieve, this is like a very soft, detailed piece. There's not a lot of going on here. I'm hoping that I get most of that conveyed with some lighting. But yeah, if I was going to be doing something a little more rendered, probably mix up the brushes. Short answer is I would just find brushes that work for certain purposes, yeah. But today, this is all the one brush, I think. I don't think I've changed it up at all.
No, I don't think you have.
Which is fine, that's cool. Yeah, I hope that sort of answers the question. You kind of get off on tangents when I'm explaining things, I think.
Vivian, yes, we are answering questions. If you've got any, let us know.
It's just a really basic sort of secondary light coming in here just to get a bit more shape. I don't know if it's entirely accurate, but not too worried at this point. I just want to get the lighting to actually work for me. It's a little bit comic booky, but that's okay. I don't know if I'm going to worry about adding any value to that curtain, but I might sporadically put a bit of sheen on these windows. And if it looks terrible, you can just 2-finger tap undo, which is great. He's my friend. There we go. Doesn't look too bad. I'll just go back over and erase some of that. Where's that arm going? Sort of. Just sort of flying around, zooming out, having a look at things, seeing where there's problem areas or things that aren't looking defined enough, and then zooming in, having a bit of an attack, not worrying too much about thumbnailing it, you know, where you kind of step back and see how your progress is going. Just trying to go quickly one area to the next and add something and then move on. And if I pinch to zoom out and it looks terrible, have another crack. But yep, these sort of second pass highlights, yeah, really sell that finer detail stuff. So things that you set up a little bit earlier with the darks start to come to life, which is why I love it. This is just 2 parts of the same awesome puzzle. And hopefully didn't mess it up at all too much in those early stages. Seems pretty good. I'm actually pretty happy with this. There's the eraser again.
DJ Artist says, what's been the one feature that really surprised you and impressed you when obtaining Procreate? And it's worth noting here, guys, that Will is actually the first artist to have used Procreate.
Yeah.
So he's been with us way back when.
Yeah, the first version was a pre-release version 1.
Damn.
Yeah, so that was it wasn't called Procreate. I can't mention what it was called, I don't think, but yeah, it wasn't what it is today. That's for sure. It was cool. Sorry, Georgie, to cut you off. That was it was an interesting story that you were leading up. What was the
No, I don't think I was going any further with that one. Just that
Yep.
it's that question kind of is a really big one. It's not that Will has only kind of recently obtained Procreate. He's kind of been experiencing it from the get-go. So
All the Procreates.
all the Procreates.
Oh man. What about you, Georgie? What's your most surprised?
Damn. Well, I've had Procreate since version 4.
Yep.
Before I worked at Savage, I bought an iPad and I bought Procreate and loved it.
Yep.
So I've been here for all of the recent updates. Probably. Oh, it's a really big question. I'm going to go with either QuickShape or Liquify. QuickShape is just so revolutionary.
You use it all the time
shapes.
too.
Yeah, I use it all the time. And it's just so satisfying, I think, to see the shapes kind of snap together and then to hold a finger on the canvas again and see it pop into a perfect shape is super cool. But Liquify, oh my god. You know, I think it's probably the fastest Liquify I've seen on any digital platform. And now that it's on Procreate Pocket as well, I'm just constantly amazed. Like, a phone should not be able to do that.
And it does.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Just trying to do a little bit of, I guess, self-shadowy cast. So just little areas where the body kind of throws a shadow across itself.
The DJ artist, the beta logo you're seeing on the website is in regards to Procreate.art itself. It's not in regards to any version of Procreate. Our website's still in beta because we've got a lot of things we want to develop for it, so keep an eye out there to see some new stuff hopefully happening soon in the future. But yeah, it's not actually in regards to Procreate software. When and if we do have any public betas available in the future, you will be able to sign up through our website, however. Did you experiment much with other art mediums prior to honing in on digital art, Will?
Yeah, ink work, pencils, not so much painting, but a little bit of charcoal stuff, pastels, mostly pencils and inks, for sure. Yeah, I don't do a lot of traditional medium stuff these days. A little bit of pencil stuff. Totally recommend learning that stuff and having a play with that stuff, because it's digital is awesome, but it's like working with 3D. You know, you don't have to work with 3D to do drawings and stuff, but using a different tool and looking at things differently gives you a better appreciation for the things that you are working at. It's like sculpting heads kind of forces you to notice the little things that you wouldn't have known would have to have been there to draw a head. It's like, I never realized that from this exact angle that the bridge of a nose looks like this. Yeah, so just exploring different tools to expand what it is that you do. If that makes sense.
Esco Coca Beam, if you mean like a line stabilizer here, Procreate actually has two versions of this. So we have Streamline, which is available in the stroke section of the brush settings. You can pull this up to make the line streamline. Okay, it's kind of like smoothing, but
Yeah.
Almost kind of elasticy, I guess.
Yeah, it's sort of, what's the word for that? It's
I've never actually had to explain it out
no.
loud. Just
if you it rounds directional changes
rounds your strokes a little bit. So there's that one, and Procreate 4.3 also introduced pressure smoothing. So this one is available in the pencil section of the brush settings, and if you turn this up, it will work to smooth your stroke depending on the pressure you're using on the stroke, I guess.
Yeah, what even is a streamline? I'd love to know how to say that.
Yeah. It's going to be annoying me all day now.
Sorry. Yep. Right there with you. I'm already annoyed. I'm angry all the time. I just realised, you know who else had these kind of neck things? This kind of collar slimy thing? The aliens of Independence Day. Like, I just looked at that kind of rendered and I've gone, that's just the alien of Independence Day. I've just straight...
Just drawn it.
Oh no.
Ah.
That's okay. I don't feel bad. It's like an accidental likeness. You know when you're just banging out character sketches and maybe 1 in 100 randomly looks like a celebrity?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
weird.
accidental likeness. It's so good. Yeah, if you've got a sketchbook and you get like 2 pages of those totally accidentally in a row, you win. I don't know what you win, but it should be good.
Another question for you.
Yep.
So on your Instagram, the latest piece is done in Procreate. I'm wondering, did you use the smudge tool at all? And for reference, that was the latest one that they're talking about.
No, I don't think so. I think that was just I don't know what the brush was. I'll find out might be in here. No, it's not any of these. But yeah, just a textured sort of painterly brush. I don't know how much grab was on that brush either.
So more a wet mix sort of thing, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was another case of just riffing with one brush and a very limited palette. Heaps of fun drawing like that, but yeah, I'm sorry, that doesn't really answer any questions. Okay. Try not to get the background to take away too much from the characters. So I want something back there, but I don't want like a distracting amount of something. Anyway. So what I'm going to do super quickly, just because I'm feeling bold and we've been at this for a while, is take everything, so copy all, and then I'm going to just paste all. Don't really have to do this, I'm just forcing my hand in a forward momentum. Make a new layer, color, and then lay down some very basic colors. I'm sort of thinking maybe greeny blues, kind of like that. Same brush, and it's going to very loosely throw a couple of colors, or try not to go too harsh. I'm sort of maybe pressing about 40%, but having the flexibility to throw color down like that harshly is nice. So, not so much definition in the color in the darks, so, but I'll come back with like an overlay later, and so kind of, even with cool colors, oddly adds like a glow or a warmth to skin and stuff, which is nice. Tentacles.
Hey Cookie, Will is using the acrylic brush.
Yes.
It's a default Procreate brush and you can find it in the artistic brush set.
Now I've got to figure out which of these tentacles are hers and which are his. I think this one's hers. And this one. And this one. Tentacle party. Alright. And I might put him in a different colour just to differentiate. Maybe like a reddy orangey. Yeah. Oh yeah. Next, might do sort of the fleshy underside bits. that sounded terrible. These, like the valve thing on the side of her head, the like a purple. It goes quite well with the blue. Yeah, it's not too bad. Might even throw some eyeshadow on there, or stain, or whatever the octopus person equivalent is. Might go a bit pinker with the gums, so get this frill looking nice. Glam it up. Is that too much? No,
No.
it's cool. And yeah, the underside bits of these tentacles.
Morgan Dempsey asking which brushes do you recommend? That's a really hard question. It's one we get a lot, but unfortunately there's not really an answer we can give you for that. The perfect brush really depends on you and what you're drawing, what your style is. All we can really say is to try as many as you can to try and find the one that suits your workflow best.
Perfectly put.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah, that's like a never-ending question.
Yeah, it is. Ooh, DJ Artist, does Procreate team have a favorite artist / brand that uses Procreate? That is way too big of a question. She's mentioned here that Sony Animations did some of the stills on Into the Spider-Verse, and that is super cool.
Yep.
We know a couple of the artists who worked on that. So awesome to have been involved in some small sort of way with our software. I couldn't say that there's a single favorite artist or brand. Really, there are so many talented people using Procreate. It blows our minds every day. I could sit here for hours listing off artists that blow me away with their Procreate usage every day.
You don't want to see my bookmarks tab? Oh my word.
Way too many.
Yeah, sure, I'll look at all these later. It's just, it's crazy. It's good, it's awesome, but it's crazy. I don't know how you even attempt to keep on top of it, Georgie.
It's my life.
Yep.
Searching for artists every day. Stalking them.
The good stalk.
The good stalking, not the bad
not
stalking.
Not this kind of stalking. All right. Just looking at it on. I might add a little secondary color to him as well. So maybe a bit more of a yellow. I'm trying to think where we're going to put this. So maybe the underside here, kind of like a Sonic the Hedgehog thing. Yeah. Sonic was really the first character that I think of that did that I saw, that colour down the middle and then a different colour everywhere else, that sort of two-tone character colour scheme. I know Mario was around before that, but because Sonic had the little tummy patch, really stood out. So every time I think of this two-tone character thing, I always think of Sonic the Hedgehog, always. Do his ear thing as well. Ear valve. And what am I doing? Just going to isolate that layer and grab the orange that I was using before.
What do you do career / art field wise, Will?
I do some art stuff here.
Ali Blue Jay, Will is actually our in-house artist here at Procreate.
Yep.
Does lots of other things too, but
Yeah, doing a
is
lot
that
of
your
video stuff.
official title?
I think it is.
In-house artist?
Yeah. Al asked me the other day, what do you even do? And I was like, yeah, I couldn't really put an answer together. I think I'm termed the in-house artist. So if anyone needs something drawn, they go, Will can do that.
Or if I need someone to do a live stream,
Yeah,
now,
totally.
I go, Will,
Can you do that?
get online.
Yes, I can do that. Yeah, so I think that's what I do. What was the question? It was like, what do I even...
What do you do career/art field-wise?
Yeah, I don't know. Savage in-house artist, I call that. Oh, this is supposed to be yellow on the underside. What am I doing? Action. Yeah. Cool. So what's missing? Nothing. All right. Now what I'm going to do, which is actually I might put a little in the background, not heaps, just some bluey, something vaguely different blue to her, so that it doesn't, not purple, kind of. So like, it's not too bad. Just a little bit. Super messy job, but that's okay. And flip. It's not a bad blue, I just need to figure out where to put it. Okay. Rough. Right. So, same story. Pasting everything. Now I'm just going to have a bit of a mess around with some curves and stuff.
Follow-up question here. How did you get to where you are now? Where did you start, and do you have any suggestions/advice on how to turn art into a full-time career?
I don't know, because I don't know how to answer that without sounding like what's the character, the little kid's name on please sir, I want some more. Oliver Twist.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Luck, I guess. That's a terrible answer, but you sort of just have to not lose sight of the fact that it's something you can do, because quite a few times I've hit points where I've been like, I should just get a real job, but now I'm doing this kind of for a living, so it's, and other things, so I don't know, just don't, and if you love it and you feel like it's part of you, doesn't really matter what trajectory you take, just don't let yourself be discouraged away from that. Outside of that, I'm sure it's mostly luck or being in the right place or knowing the right people. Or so I guess the things that you can do to actively, I'm sure most people have heard this 1,000 times, but something I didn't really have is surrounding yourself with like-minded people, other artists, or being part of communities and things like that, where you increase your luck. I'm not sure. It was a fluke that I got here, so yep.
I think it is really important to surround yourself with those like-minded people. It's difficult in Australia, we're so far away from everyone, but there's a huge network in the art community in Europe, in America as well. I know there's a little bit of it. Getting yourself to art events is a fantastic way to make that network. So we were at IFCC in Croatia last week. There are a lot of other art events around. Playgrounds do quite a few throughout Europe. We had IW last year. They're not doing one this year. But finding those sort of events that you can get to easily and it's a really great way to kind of meet new people, expand your network, and having more of that network and having those like-minded people around you does increase those chances of you getting the jobs. Because if you make friends with people, you make networks with people, if a job comes up that you're suited to, chances are someone's going to go, oh hey, you'd be really good for this job, you should totally look into it. That sort of a thing. It's also a great way to increase your learning as well, because when you're surrounded constantly by people in that same mindset, you're feeding off each other and you're growing and you're learning. So would totally recommend going to those sorts of things if you can do it. Otherwise, online communities are also a really good way to go. So finding communities that are kind of in the same mindset as you with what style of drawing you're doing, or and traditional, digital, whatever, and just really being active in those communities. Great way to get started.
Very good question, but a difficult one.
It is a difficult one, yeah. There's not really one solid path to kind of get to where you want to be. And I suppose that's the same for everything.
Yeah, totally. What am I doing now? I'm just looking at it, having to think. I think one more thing just to finish off. This isn't usual either. Like, I'm just having a total quick, nasty play with different curves and stuff to see what works with these characters. Where is it? Contrast, overlay. A nice way to quickly add, sort of, because these are kind of one tone. There's a little bit of two colours going on in there, but I can get a bit more variation. Would add tremendously. Maybe not overlay. Maybe let's go screen. See what that particular shade of orange looks like coming in through the window. Oh, yeah. Maybe a bit more. Try not to get carried away with this. You tend to go, that looks so lovely, and then you realise you've just painted over a whole bunch of stuff that didn't look that bad to begin with. So this sort of finalised secondary light source stuff, I've got to be careful. Totally looks like an alien off Independence Day, must be on. Kind of had this bridge up the middle of its head.
Ali Blue Jay says, I appreciate the advice, and honestly, you guys are super helpful and inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. Honestly, it's interesting to think about, and these aren't the kind of questions that I ask myself alone in my living room at the end of the day, so it's nice to be allowed to think about it, to get the opportunity. Thank you. I don't want to overwork this and mess it up, because I'm pretty sure we've got what would be considered I don't want to say finished picture, but a rendered enough picture. So might just get enough of this happening to make sense, and then we'll call it, because otherwise I'll it will never end. It will never end. So it's pretty cool. Bit of that. I think I'm getting excited now. I've accidentally switched to the eraser like 5 times in the last minute. Just relax. Yeah, it's not super accurate, but I'm just like I'm aware that this secondary light might not be striking the underside of the arm, but I'm just using the fact that it's present in the scene to help bring a little more shape to the arm there. Rules are made to be broken. We're using, so I might just quickly get an overlay and kind of dig the way that purple works with the blue. So if I can blend a bit of that into these larger forms without stealing too much.
Do you have any custom gestures on your version of Procreate, Will?
Custom gestures.
Gestures that aren't the defaults.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't. No, color pick is always usually touch and hold. I do like to speed that up a bit.
Yeah.
So I think the default speed is just a bit slow when you want to be moving around grabbing colors. Personally, but outside of that, I don't. I think that's default behavior anyway. Touch and hold. In fact, I think color picker is like it's got 10 defaults.
Yeah, it's got a lot.
It's
of
got
defaults.
a bunch of
You can like hit the square button in the middle of the brush sliders as well.
Yep. So if anyone's
Heaps of things.
yeah, if we ever create new tools that need some kind of input, one of those is probably going to disappear. I'm erasing again.
I think I'm the same. I don't think I have any gestures that aren't defaults, really. The only thing that could be considered custom, I guess, would be my quick menu options, but that's not really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got it right the first time.
Almost.
Yeah, very, very close. In fact, I might just throw a little bit more on the windows, and then I think I wouldn't feel bad about it. Yeah. I say that, and then I'll look at it tonight and go, oh. Ooh, I just found a very poorly rendered tentacle. I might get onto that.
Damn.
Sorry. Actually, I think if I add to that, it might. What do you think, Georgie?
About.
Is that a finished picture?
I think it's looking pretty good.
All right. Let's get a bit of door. More door. More door.
DJ artist, the pressure curve is an interesting thing to chat about. We probably don't have enough time to really go into it today. But actually, I think you're the second person I've had today across some form of social media ask me about the pressure curve. So I think I might have to do an Instagram tutorial on it at some stage. Stay tuned for that one, I guess.
Just trying to get that jelly sort of, you know, when you get reflected light close to like the opposite of shadow in a corner. Like you get light bounce in a corner, and slippy surfaces, you get very sharp tonal transitions. Trying to get that sort of jelly looking thing going on now, like the very last pass, end of class. That's
Hey Jackie, yes, the live stream will be saved to our channel for later, so you'll be able to watch it whenever you want, as often as you want, whenever it's saved, which should be sometime later today.
Yep. I don't know who's doing that these days.
Nate, I'm pretty sure.
Cool.
Because I don't, so just
I think you said
turns
something.
up somehow.
You mentioned it to me before, and I was, I think I might do it. So I'll find out. Hopefully today, sometime. Yep. just sort of drawing over, painting over some of those less defined areas, just so there's no obvious blank spots. It's all pretty messy, scratchy, but that's kind of cool. And I know I've said this before, but lastly, I'm just going to make sure this curtain kind of gets some love.
This piece should definitely be on the Procreate's Instagram page when it's done, I reckon, to announce that the live stream is up and available to watch whenever. Are you going to post it to your own page, Will?
Yeah, for sure. I'll throw it up there. I think we're pretty good now. I think we're done. I'm just messing around now, so you might call it. As I add a couple more finicky details, just want to thank everyone who stopped in today to check it out. It's I really dig doing these live streams. So terrifying, yes, but totally recommend it. I really look forward to them. And thank you for making it a thing. I will stop anytime. I can stop anytime.
Alright, we might call it, guys. It is lunchtime here in Australia, so we better head out to get some food. Thanks for joining us today. This live stream will be available to watch whenever, hopefully today, but maybe tomorrow, maybe Monday, who knows. Definitely very soon in the future. You can keep an eye out on our social media pages for future live streams, and we'll see you then.
Thanks, guys.